When the world tests your peace, the Stoic builds inner space. There is a kind of discomfort that doesn't come from intense pain, but from constant repetition. The buzz of a notification, a passive-aggressive comment, a judgmental look, a delay that messes up your plans. Small things, but they feel like they weigh tons when they happen day after day. And without realizing it, you become someone who's always on edge, as if the whole world could press your buttons, as if any gesture could throw you off balance. It's not that you want to live like this, it's that somewhere along the way, you started reacting to the world as if you had no choice, as if you were just another conditioned reflex. But within you, there is space, a center, a place that doesn't bend to provocation, that doesn't stumble with every misstep. The only thing is, this place needs to be accessed, nurtured, remembered. Seneca warned us, it's not that we have little time, but that we waste much of it. And perhaps what you've been wasting without even noticing is your own peace, because every irritation you carry, every response that throws you off, every fight you pick without need costs you. It costs energy, it costs clarity, it costs you. Marcus Aurelius, in his quiet wisdom, wrote, "The disturbance is not in the event, but in your perception of it. What hurts you is not the world. It's how you allow it to enter, and that perception is a choice. A construction, a practice. In this video, you'll discover 10 simple, practical, yet deeply transformative Stoic rules. Rules that help you build this inner space, to turn reactivity into response, to replace irritation with presence, not to become indifferent, but to become someone that nothing and no one can shake. If you feel like you need to find that center, or maybe build it for the first time, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and like this video. This space was made for you. And if anxiety is part of your daily life, if your body and mind are stuck in alert mode, click the first link in the description. There, you'll find the ebook, Anxiety Under Control, created to guide you step by step in rebuilding your calm. Because yes, it's possible to live with peace, even when the world is too loud, even when everything tries to throw you off. You just need to remember where your center is and return to it as many times as necessary. Rule 1, don't take offense by reflex. Not every arrow that hits you needs to wound you. Sometimes what hurts isn't what was said, but what you believed about what was said. How much it resonated with a wound you're still carrying open. Most offenses have no power on their own. They simply find a vulnerable space within us to latch onto. That's why the first Stoic rule is so powerful. Don't take offense by reflex. Epictetus wrote, "What harms you is not the insult, but your opinion about it." Because everything that comes from the outside must be interpreted before it becomes pain. And that interpretation, it's not mandatory, it's a choice. But to choose, you need to pause, to observe, to avoid automatic reaction. The technique of the inner mirror begins with a small, almost invisible gesture. Breathe 3 times consciously, and then ask yourself a question that changes everything. Does this define me or merely touch me? Some things touch, some things shape, and not everything that touched you needs to become a scar. Picture an arrow shot at a closed door. It hits and falls, but if the door is open, it enters. Words and actions from others are like that. They only enter if you let them. The Stoic learns to recognize that door, to close it with awareness, to refuse letting everything from outside dictate what's born inside. This is one of the most powerful practices of Stoic philosophy. Create a space between stimulus and response, a space where you breathe, where you observe, where you choose, because you are not the reaction. You are the presence that decides what stays. If this kind of content helps you reconnect with that inner space, remember to subscribe, turn on notifications, and like the video. We are building together a place where wisdom becomes practice. And if anxiety still makes you react before you think, don't forget about the Anxiety Under Control ebook in the first link of the description. It might be exactly what your silence needs right now. Rule 2. Start your day before the world demands you. There's a moment just before the day truly begins where the silence is still yours. A sacred, almost imperceptible interval where you still get to choose how you want to step into the world. But that moment is almost always swallowed by urgency, by screens, by the sound of the phone, by notifications telling you what to do before you've even listened to yourself. Starting your day reacting to the world is like handing over your ship's rudder to anyone passing by. It's letting external chaos dictate your mental rhythm, and your body, even if it's just waking up, is already in defense mode, already responding, already chasing, and the day hasn't even started. Neuroscience shows that the first hour of the day sets what's called your neuro-emotional frequency. That means how you start your morning directly influences how you'll feel and react for the rest of the day. If you begin in noise, you tend to stay unbalanced. But if you begin in silence, something changes, the vibration changes, the focus shifts, the day shifts. The Stoic practice of the morning hour doesn't require elaborate rituals. It requires intention. It might be 1 minute. It might be 10. What matters is not the time, but the direction. The choice to breathe before reacting. To ask, how do I want to show up today? Before asking, what does the world want from me now? Picture your mind as a ship anchored at sea. If at dawn you hand the wheel over to the tides, you'll drift. But if upon waking you quietly take hold of the helm, the course is yours. And that slowly changes everything. This rule isn't about productivity, it's about sovereignty, about remembering that you can still choose who you'll be today, and that choice begins before the world calls you. Rule 3. Cultivate silence before you respond. Not every response needs to be immediate. Not every reaction must be born in the very second something hits us. There is a kind of intelligence that only reveals itself in the pause, a kind of wisdom that lives between what you feel and what you choose to do with what you feel. And that's exactly where the Stoic is shaped. In the space between impulse and decision, we live in a culture that glorifies speed, fast answers, immediate replies, readiness. But that emotional urgency, it costs you, because the faster you react, the less presence there is in your response. And without presence, we usually respond from our wounds, not from awareness. Seneca said, "It is the sign of a great soul to disregard insults." But to disregard doesn't mean to ignore. It means not to be led by them. It means choosing to wait until your center returns, until your vision broadens, until you can see what really matters, not just what hurt. The Stoic learns to cultivate what we call strategic silence, not as denial, but as preparation. It's the silence that comes before a lucid response, the interval where emotion loses power and awareness gains space. The pause that gives you back mastery over yourself. Imagine the wise as the ocean, too deep to be shaken by the surface. The wind blows, the waves rise, but down below, everything remains intact. It's to that depth you return when you choose silence. When you wait not for the chance to retaliate, but for the moment to respond with clarity. Rule 4. Don't engage in pointless arguments. Some battles don't deserve your energy. And not every conversation that seems necessary truly is. There's a subtle trap in everyday arguments. They don't arise from grand themes, but from small egos, petty fights over who's right, over status, over pride. And before you know it, you're defending something that no longer even matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Avoid pointless arguments," because he knew how draining these seemingly harmless exchanges can be, and not just mentally, they drain your presence, your clarity, your center. Arguing without direction is spending lucidity on what won't transform anything. It's walking in circles expecting to arrive somewhere. Before each confrontation, the Stoic pauses, not to avoid, but to discern. And the guiding question is simple yet powerful. What for? What's the purpose of this argument? What's the purpose of this reply? What's the purpose of continuing this exchange? Often there isn't one. There's only repetition, only an old pattern trying to stay alive. Life already has too much noise. It already has weariness we didn't choose. So let those we do choose be conscious. Let our words have direction. Let our silences also be answers, because not every breeze deserves your sail. Not every wind deserves your movement. When you learn to walk away from certain arguments, it's not because you're avoiding, it's because you're protecting. You're preserving what is valuable in you. You're choosing where it's worth being whole and where it's wiser to simply be. Rule 5. Accept that not everything deserves a response. There's a silent power in simply not responding, not out of indifference, but out of wisdom. Because sometimes to respond is to enter a cycle that doesn't belong to you. It's to feed a dynamic that only survives on your reaction. The Stoic understands that silence isn't weakness, it's presence in what truly matters. Epictetus said, "If someone provokes you, know that it is your opinion that disturbs you." The provocation has no power until you interpret it as a threat, until you take it personally, until you decide to respond. And that decision, when made unconsciously, costs a lot. It costs peace, it costs focus, it costs vital energy. The technique of lucid non-response begins with a choice, not to validate what doesn't elevate you, not to feed what doesn't build you, because silence is also a verb. Silence also speaks, and often it says more about you than any explanation. It is the space where your integrity remains intact, even when everything around you tries to provoke. Picture a dog barking on the street. It growls, provokes, but you don't need to bark back. You know your worth isn't measured by the volume of your reply, and that wisdom is what protects you, what spares you, what keeps you centered when the world tries to pull you off course. This rule is about maturity, about understanding that not everything that touches you deserves a response, because by choosing silence, you're not running from conflict, you're choosing where to fight. You're saying, "My energy is too precious to waste on small battles." Rule 6. Control the tone of your voice, not others. It's not always what we say that triggers conflict. Often, it's how we say it, the tone, the hidden vibration behind our words, the energy they carry, because human communication is less about content and more about frequency. And when the tone rises, awareness falls. When the volume increases, clarity scatters. One of the most common triggers in daily life is trying to control the other, to mold their tone, to correct their form, to want them to speak the way that pleases you. But that's an illusion. The only voice you can truly regulate is your own. The only frequency within your domain is the one you emit. Neuroscience confirms what Stoics have known for centuries. Your tone of voice regulates emotional response. Speaking calmly isn't just politeness, it's self-control. It lowers cortisol. It stabilizes the nervous system. And most of all, it lights a flame of presence amid chaos, because the one who controls their tone illuminates where chaos tries to reign. Imagine your voice as a candle. In the middle of shouting, it seems small, but precisely because it's small, it guides. It quiets without needing to silence. It shows there's another way to be in the world, a way where peace isn't a reaction. It's a stance, it's a choice, it's consistency. Speak as if you're in the presence of your future self. That's the Stoic gesture, as if the wisest, calmest version of you is listening, and in truth, they are. Every time you choose the tone you wish to sustain, instead of the tone the environment wants to impose, you draw closer to that version. You invite it to act. Rule 7. Let things go, not out of weakness, but wisdom. Not everything needs a reply. Not everything should be taken to heart. Sometimes true strength lies in letting go, in not carrying it, in letting it pass. Not out of avoidance, but out of clarity, because over time you begin to understand there are frictions that don't deserve your body, conflicts that don't deserve your soul. Seneca said, "To strike back at an insult is to give importance to one who deserves none." And that's not contempt. It's consciousness. It's realizing that when you react to everything, you're not standing your ground. You're exhausting yourself. You're getting lost in 1,000 battles that change nothing. that teach nothing, that only drain what in you still tried to remain whole. Letting go is emotional maturity. It's discerning what truly touches and what merely passes. It's letting certain noises dissolve with time, letting certain words die in the air, letting certain actions never become scars, because you're not obligated to welcome everything. You get to choose what stays and what doesn't deserve to. And that choice doesn't make you weaker, it frees you. True strength is not in the one who confronts everything, but in the one who chooses their battles, the one who knows that dignity is also keeping your peace when everything invites you to war, the one who lets go without lowering themselves. Imagine an eagle mid-flight. It sees everything, but it's not distracted by what's on the ground. Mosquitoes buzz around, but it doesn't change course, because its vision is on a different level. Its focus is elsewhere. That altitude is what the Stoic seeks, not as an escape, but as wisdom. If this vision echoed inside you, like this video, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. And if anxiety still makes you carry more than you should, more than you need, access the first link in the description. The ebook Calm Under Control was made to help you lay down what was never yours and start flying again, at your pace, at your height, in your axis. Rule 8. Turn irritation into observation. Irritation is a messenger, a sign that something inside you has been touched, but more often than not, it's treated as an end in itself, as if discomfort justifies the explosion, as if unease is enough of a reason to lose your center. But Stoicism invites a different approach. Turn irritation into a mirror. What irritates us often points to a blind spot, to a part of us still needing attention, maturity, presence. And Marcus Aurelius reminds us, everything that happens is bearable if you bear it. Not because everything is easy, but because your reaction is always a choice, even when it feels automatic. That choice begins with naming the emotion, internally saying, I am irritated, and in doing so you create space, a small space between feeling and acting, because by naming it, you step back, you observe it, and what is observed begins to transform. Irritation loses its grip when seen with clarity. Picture yourself in front of a mirror. Each time something irritates you, instead of pulling away, you look calmly, firmly, with curiosity, not to judge, but to understand, because the irritation isn't the problem. The problem is when it becomes a habit, when it shapes your tone, your posture, your words. The irritated one sees a thorn, the Stoic sees a mirror, and that difference changes everything, because the one who sees the mirror grows, evolves, integrates, and gradually stops being a prisoner of what they feel, becoming instead the architect of what they choose to feel. Rule 9. Don't react to the first impulse. React to who you want to become. There's a distance between what we feel and what we decide to do with it. And within that distance lies freedom. Freedom from being led by impulse. Freedom from becoming a hostage of the moment. The reminder that emotion is not identity. That an impulse does not define who you are. Epictetus said, "Don't say you lost. Say you gave it back." This phrase holds a powerful truth. What's taken from us is often surrendered by our own lack of control, by the haste to respond, by the urge to react. But the Stoic doesn't act on reflex. He acts with coherence, with alignment to who he wants to be. This rule is a turning point, because it invites us to stop acting based on now and start acting based on the future, on the version of ourselves we're trying to build. It's looking at the impulse and asking, if I respond like this, what does that build in me? Because every action is a brick, every reaction is a foundation, and what you repeat builds you. Reacting consciously is like turning on a light in the middle of the impulse. It's refusing to be a wildfire and becoming an ember. The ember doesn't explode, but it lasts. It warms, it transforms, and that's what you're cultivating with every lucid choice, with every pause that comes before an action, with every moment you say no to what's urgent and yes to what's essential. It's not about suppression. It's about redirection, putting the emotion in service of something greater, something you're building silently, with effort, with steadiness, with intention. Rule 10. Practice the return to your inner base. The world doesn't have to shout to throw us off balance. Sometimes all it takes is a build-up of small distractions, unspoken expectations, subtle noise that when stacked pull us away from ourselves. And before we realize it, we're off-center, reacting to everything, trying to fix what's outside while forgetting what's within. But what Stoicism teaches is simple and profound. You can always return. Return to center. Return to your base. Return to that place within you that observes without confusion, that feels without losing itself, that moves without misalignment. Seneca said, "The one who is master of himself is never disturbed." And that sovereignty begins when you create internal rituals of return. When you pause for a moment, take a deep breath, touch your chest, and remember, I'm here. I can choose. I don't need to follow the noise. I can choose silence. This gesture of return is like consulting a compass. The compass doesn't change the path, but it prevents you from getting lost. And your inner peace is that compass. It won't stop the storm, but it prevents you from sinking in it, prevents you from forgetting who you are while the world tries to reshape you. The practice of the Stoic return doesn't require much, just awareness. A moment of stillness, a gentle reminder, is what's happening now pulling me off center or reconnecting me with it? And in that question, you return to your clarity, to your axis, to the space where the world cannot enter, only you reside. Conclusion: when nothing shakes you, you become a lighthouse. There is a tranquility that does not depend on external silence. It's born within. It grows in the middle of chaos, and it strengthens every time you choose not to react to the world, but to respond from a place of centeredness, a center that is yours, that is steady, that is sacred. Seneca said, "The tranquility of the soul is the most precious good." And Marcus Aurelius added, "Your mind should be like the universe, in constant flow, yet unshakable." These words are not just philosophical, they are maps, guides showing that it's possible to live in this world without being shaped by it, without being pulled by every provocation, without losing yourself in every challenge. Nothing that comes from outside should control what is born inside. That's the key. And over time, it stops being just a concept. It becomes a practice, a way of existing, a way of breathing, a way of being, because the world will keep shouting, but the Stoic chooses to hear only what matters, chooses what vibrates in alignment with their truth, chooses peace as presence, not as the absence of conflict. At the end of each day, there's a question that restores awareness. Today, did I react to the world, or was I guided by my inner axis? And in that question, transformation takes root, because it's not about never getting irritated again. It's about not getting carried away, not abandoning yourself, being the one who leads, not the one who is led. The world may scream, but you will be the bell that rings only with purpose, that vibrates only with truth, that moves only with intention. And so, without needing to prove anything, you become a lighthouse, firm, silent, present, illuminating the path simply by being who you are. If this message resonated with something inside you, like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And if anxiety still tries to dim that light, remember the first link in the description. The ebook, Anxiety Under Control, is a practical reminder that your calm isn't weakness, it's your deepest power. When cultivated, it transforms you, not just into someone calmer, but into someone truly free.